Hello, welcome to the Benchwarmers podcast. I'm Casey Coggins, here with Alvin Hebert.
Carmelo with the hoodie is free.
And Andrew Lara.
D-Wade's going home.
He's not going home. He was just home.
He's moving back in.
They're bunking.
Going back to college roommates.
Reliving the glory days.
So, we just want to touch on this previous NFL week. The hometown teams, the Cowboys and the Texans, and then my team, the Lions. There were some interesting games. As we were talking about it just now, I thought it was going to kind of be a busted week, but it was definitely the best week of football out of the three. There were some upsets. The Colts-Browns game was interesting. That came down to a field goal. The Rams-49ers was entertaining. Eagles-Giants.
Field goal.
61 yards.
61-yard field goal, walk-off field goal. The Packers coming back to beat the Bengals. The Saints dominated Carolina. And the Seahawks didn't look like the same team as they have been to the Titans. So there were some interesting matchups. But let's start with Monday Night Football. Cowboys, Cardinals.
Super Dak.
Feed Zeke works.
Feed Zeke does work. Game plan. Fourth quarter is feed Zeke. Dak, though, going a little John Elway, diving into the end zone, getting hit. Not as disastrous as always looked, because he spun around and all
360.
that. But there were.
Can't forget about Dez too. Put the team on his back and just
he put the Cardinals on his back and carried like three of them.
He put that team on his back.
Yeah, we were just talking about is Dez the guy? He had 2 receptions for 12 yards in this game.
And one touchdown mattered. Yeah.
And looking at the numbers, the highest reception total was Terrence Williams and Zeke with 3 receptions each. There were only 13 completed passes by Dak. He threw the ball 18 times. And I was saying last week, you don't win with Dak throwing the ball 50 times. You will not win. You win when you give Zeke the ball.
How many rushes did Zeke have?
22.
With how many yards? 94?
He only had 80 yards, but he had a touchdown. But it was enough to control the clock. I don't know how long, what the time of possession looked like. I'll pull that up. But
it wore them down. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, just they stuck with the run game in the first half. In the second half, it's paid off.
It's crazy. I don't know. The Cardinals had the ball 36 minutes to the Cowboys 23, and they outgained them 332 yards to 273 yards.
Well, that
there were no turnovers on either team. The Cowboys had more penalties. Looking at just the pure numbers, if I was to read this to you with you not knowing anything about the game, you would say Arizona had to have won the game.
But if you watched the game and you saw the first half, you would understand the numbers.
That first half, man, I mean, Carson Palmer looked great.
And the Cowboys looked trash.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like that same defense that just wasn't worth a damn.
I think Carson Palmer opened up the game like 9 for 9 and
a touchdown.
11 for 11.
Was it 11-11?
Yeah.
In the touchdown, and they were rolling, and then I stopped watching a little bit. I started watching the Cubs-Cardinals game, and I came back, and they were the announcers, Gruden and whatever the new guy was talking about how the Cardinals missed a field goal and they had a touchdown ruled comeback for a penalty, and that changed the complexion of the game. These numbers don't look good for the Cowboys, but the overall result is a good one.
A win's a win.
That they came out in the second half and they had the energy and they had the gusto to go in and finish, take care of business. And DeMarcus Lawrence was a man on a mission.
That dude was
He was in the backfield hitting Carson Palmer.
How many sacks did he end with?
At least 3.
I think they gave him 3.5. But yeah.
He played 52 snaps and had 4 tackles, 3 sacks, and then he had 6 quarterback hits. So he was just so disruptive.
He was just dominating.
Even Jalen Smith, he looked really good too. He looked active, and he's not where he should be yet, or he's going to end up being. But the tandem of Jalen Smith and Sean Lee, that's gonna be a good linebacking core.
Byron Jones also in the secondary. He has some key stops.
He's their X factor in the secondary because of his athletic ability and the size of him. He's your tight end, slot receiver, safety stopper, so you can still play Skandrick on the outside and whoever their other cornerback is.
I think it's Lewis, the rookie from Michigan.
Jordan Lewis.
Yeah.
So Byron gives them a lot of flexibility. Towards the end of that game, they put up the graphic that what the Cowboys were doing they were running 3 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and 6 defensive backs. And they were able to get pressure with the 3 down linemen and either 1 or 2, both of the linebackers, and just play straight up with the defensive backs. So the game plan was much better and a lot better executed as far as, or compared to the previous week when Denver took it to them, which I think we all thought that was as bad as they looked. It wasn't as bad. The Cowboys are not that bad.
That was rock bottom,
and that's as low as they've been.
And so that was something to build off. I mean, good game for the Cowboys. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't as good as it could have been. Zeke kind of looks out of shape. I was listening to the Hardline on my way home, and they were talking about him not having that burst of speed, that closing speed that he used to have, where he would get into the secondary, break the tackle, and be able to outrun everybody down the field.
Some could say he looked like he's been battling
legal issues.
Yeah, exactly.
And
off the field matters.
Going clubbing. Yeah. So if he gets back into shape and he starts looking like the back that he was last year, the Cowboys are going to be scary going forward. On to the Texans. Deshaun Watson is the real deal, which I thought going into the draft that Deshaun Watson I thought should have been the number 1 pick as far as quarterbacks go. I knew he was going to come into the league and be ready to start and ready to play. You saw it with Dak and you saw it with Russell Wilson, those same kind of quarterbacks, that they come in and there's a calming demeanor about them. They have, it's something that doesn't go into the numbers and isn't a physical trait, but the intangible quality of the Dak Prescotts and the Russell Wilsons and the Tom Bradys and Aaron Rodgers. That's what I see Deshaun having. With how good he was in college, he understands the big stage and he understands how to play great defenses. Defenses are a little different in the NFL, so you're going to see some rough patches.
The one thing is he's not the reason why they're losing the game. He's keeping them in the game, so they could be there to win it, but he's not constantly in the game.
The defense was the main reason they beat the Bengals, but offensively, he was the only thing that was happening. They couldn't run the ball, and they don't have much of a run game. Lamar Miller had 14 carries for 56 yards.
I think they're going to start Foreman next game.
I think that would be a good idea. I watched a lot of them at UT, and he, I think, led the nation in rushing in yards from scrimmage last season. He was the only good thing about UT last year. And he would be, I think, the way to go. Because Lamar Miller can be your change of pace back, where Deontay, he can be your pound through the tackles kind of back. He's a bigger back. And if you can start getting a running game going, you're going to get the play action pass, and that's what Dak Prescott's numbers are so good in play action because he has Zeke and he has a run game. The play action pass is one of the most effective weapons in football.
The out-of-pocket play? Dude, Dak was on point. Those bootlegs that they were running?
Yeah, and Deshaun Watson does the same exact thing. And Deshaun Watson's a little faster than Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson.
He's a little smaller too, right?
He's a little smaller, but I mean, they're all
faster.
They're all
he's lighter.
Yeah.
More aerodynamic.
The wind carries him a bit.
Run like the wind blows out.
Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott aren't necessarily big guys either. Deshaun against the Patriots, 22 of 33, 300 yards, two touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He needs to cut down on the interceptions, but they put up 33 points, and usually that should be enough to win. The secondary for the Texans was a little banged up, and they had some broken coverages, and that allowed Tom Brady to kill him.
But we was talking about it before that last play. The defender, all he had to do was just push Brooks out, and then it would have been incomplete. But instead, he went for the ball, and
it allowed Cooks to get down. So I mean, it was a good sign for the Texans. They're 1-2, and I didn't have them making the playoffs. I think a 7-9 year for them is a very good year. I don't see them having enough to put them over the hump. But all signs are pointed in the right direction. Mr. having them in the playoffs, winning the division.
Yeah.
Hey, man, don't be pointing at me.
He was over there looking at me like, what? Huh?
Man, it's still early in the year. At least they're not starting like the 0-3 Giants right now.
Yeah.
We had them written into the wild card.
I didn't.
Oh, I did.
I did. And I was disgusted with myself saying the Giants.
So I think my postseason picks right now are doing pretty well. Well, minus the Panthers. I put Carolina. But I thought Cam was going to come back,
bounce back from last season. Yeah, I saw it too.
And be healthy.
We all had the Seahawks also.
Yeah, had the Seahawks too.
Yeah, they looking trash right now.
Hey man. Don't make me go Aaron Rodgers on you. Just relax. It's still early.
They did the same thing last season. Everybody was writing them off last season. They looked just as bad. And
anybody can go on a run.
Facts are
facts.
Facts.
Look at the Indians in baseball.
That's a little different.
It's a lot harder too.
Way harder.
Yeah. Playing every day.
Anything can happen.
I mean, the Seahawks are playing in a division where the Cardinals look like they're going to win 4 games. And the Rams are the only competition for the Seahawks, and who knows how long they're going to keep it up. The same reason why I think the Titans win their division in the AFC South. If they just go 6-0, just win your division. That's all the Seahawks need to do. Now I thought they were going to be, a top 2 seed. I thought they were going to go look at like 11-5, 12-4 kind of season. They still can, but it's looking bleak.
Hey man, I mean, I had the Cowboys going 16-0, but
see, I had them at 15-1.
Now I gotta go for 15-1 too.
But I think the Texans will be fine. And now to my team, who lost on some bullshit.
That good.
Which
hashtag bitter.
I understand the rule. I understand why they have the rule in place, because you don't want them to have ran a play and there were 10 seconds left on the clock when Golden Tate got tackled. They would have had to run to the line and run another play. But the Lions went 27 yards in 7 seconds last season against the Vikings. So they would have been able to go 5 yards to run a play.
It's possible.
Yeah, so they would have had a chance to get off a snap, but you don't think that most teams in 8 seconds are going to be able to get their line set up, the wide receivers on the line, the running back in position, a play called. So I understand that you don't want them to have the advantage because now they have an untimed down, but that's just not how you should end a game.
This is going to be one of those rules they're going to go in the off season and just look it over, probably change it.
I feel like I like the 10-second runoff rule. Under a minute, you have a 10-second runoff for certain plays. If you don't have a timeout, and that's the thing. If you don't have a timeout, you get the 10-second runoff. So it requires the coaches to be smarter about their timeouts. But you shouldn't lose a game because of the 10-second runoff. So I feel like if the 10-second runoff causes the clock to go to zeros, there should be one untimed down. And this is going to happen for every team. It's not just for the Lions.
But it's going to be for the Lions. Because the Lions.
But it's going to be
the Lions rule.
the catch going to the ground, that's the Calvin Johnson rule.
Yep.
So
don't go conspiracy theory on it. There's nothing going on that the league is targeting the Lions. They can't win.
They're not. It's not a conspiracy theory. I don't believe in that shit.
Gonna send a letter to the NFL right now.
Dear Mr. Goodell, please leave us alone. Sincerely, Lions fans.
Yeah, and it's just not surprising because I've seen the Lions lose like this before. I brought it up to y'all talking about the Lions and how they've been on the bad end of some refs calls in the past 5 seasons.
I bet you can make a case for a conspiracy theory, actually.
Probably, but it's not a conspiracy theory. It's just, it's
fact.
It's how...
The league's against the Lions.
Facts are facts.
You have to roll with it. Even though, as Stu Gotts puts it on the Dan Levitard show, the Lions are 3-0. Matt Stafford is 3-0. But unfortunately, they're 2-1. And the Falcons go to 3-0. But I was telling y'all, I didn't care if the Lions won that game. I expected them to lose. I just needed them to keep it close.
Just a measuring stick, see where they're at.
Early in the game, the Falcons, they were killing the Lions offensively. The Lions could not stop that offense. And it looked like the Lions were just going to get ran out of the building. But they fought back, and they made it a close game, and they had a chance to win. And that's all I wanted them to do. And they arguably should have won had they been given a chance to run that last play, because it was going to be a 4th and goal. But that's just not how it happened. You build from it. The Lions know that they lost one just on the tiniest of margins.
Sheer bad luck.
So I think going forward, the Lions will be fine. They have the Vikings this weekend in Minnesota. I think this is more of a must-win for the Lions than the Falcons game was. And although it's only going to be week 4, it's a division rival. And it's going to be the team that you're competing more with for a playoff spot. Because the NFC North can have 2 teams make the playoffs because the Lions and the Vikings and the Packers are that good. But the Vikings, you have a better shot at beating out for a playoff spot than the Packers, because the Packers have this guy named Aaron.
Who's that?
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, you mean Clay Matthews?
and that he just wins football games. Line up anybody on the outside.
Now every time they just win a comeback game, it's just relax.
Right. Yeah, man, I got this.
I mean, he's making a dude named Geronimo look good. So, the Lions, I think that this is kind of a more must-win. It gets them 3-1.
You think he calls him whenever he throws the ball to him? Geronimo!
No, see, I think what he does is he says that when he's not going to throw it to him, so the defensive backs bite towards Geronimo. Oh, he said Geronimo, gotta go over there. So, that was week 3. On to week 4. Still a lot of football left in the season.
I think the only team we can really count out right now is the Giants.
Yeah, pretty much.
I hope so.
And the Browns.
I mean, that's just...
The Browns are the one team this season that have not had a lead in any of their games.
But I think the Browns are actually playing better than the Giants.
Yeah, but
their offense is showing to be better than the Giants right now.
But like I said last week, I thought the Giants were going to make adjustments, and I thought they were going to beat the Eagles. And up until about 5-6 minutes left, it looked like they were going to actually win that game, and then they give up a touchdown, and then they give up the 61-yard field goal.
Odell, that dirty dog, you.
Oh, real quick, thinking about Odell and the penalty for his dog peeing thing.
He's a dog.
What do y'all think of the Von Miller personal or unsportsmanlike conduct penalty that essentially cost them the game because they stopped them on 3rd and 6 out of field goal range, and he does the psych and he pulls his hand away. He goes to help Tyrod Taylor up, pulls his hand away, and they're both. Tyrod points at Von Miller. They're both laughing.
Ha! You got me.
Yeah, and then once I think the ref was like, "Oh wait, the quarterback's pointing at a linebacker. Shit, something must have happened.
Gotta protect the quarterback."
Yeah,
that had to be one of the worst calls. Like,
that was bad.
If I was a Denver fan, I would definitely write to the league about that.
Yeah, it was.
You got those the PC police going, "Thank you." I was hurt by Von Miller's.
We need no. we can't stand for the psych outs and the gotchas. So on to the next topic. We have some baseball playoffs right around the corner. Most teams have 7 games left, so we got a week left in the season. Right now, I have the Cubs-Cardinals game on mute on the TV, and the Cardinals are fighting for their life in the wild card, and so the Cubs are not looking so hot tonight. They should win the division still, and that would be, I believe, the second straight year that they've won the division, and the third straight year they've made the playoffs, which I believe is a miracle in the biblical term. But so
the AL side is shaping out.
Yeah, the AL is almost all set. With you got the Indians, the Astros, the Red Sox, the Yankees. With the Indians clinching home field for the first round.
That's not the Stros.
The Stros are 2 games back of the Indians at the moment.
Wow,
they're about to win tonight too.
I mean, that's what happens when you win 22 in a row. In the Twins.
Wait, when did that happen?
I don't know. I thought it was a rumor.
Is LeBron on the team too?
No, it was Kyrie.
Oh, Kyrie.
Yeah.
Kyrie carried them.
But then he got traded and they lost. But the Twins are kind of a surprise in that second wild card spot. I knew that they would be better this year, but I didn't see them making the playoffs. And then the Angels are 5 games back of them. So
and I was telling my cousin this, the Angels and all that stuff, and AL's all, he's all, man, they're trash. I was all like, there's just certain teams that always make a run at the end, and it's like the Angels and the Twins just somehow always creep themselves up there for a chance in the playoffs.
That's how I felt about the Rangers too.
Yeah, the Rangers
have been doing that, and they've been making playoff runs since.
Yeah, they had looked like they might squeak in. I think just 2 weeks ago you had 7 teams within 2.5 games of each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like a week ago.
And now you have the Yankees are 5 up on the Twins for the first wild card spot, which is they've clinched the playoff berth, and then the Angels are 5 back of the Twins. So they're really the only team that has a shot of making the playoffs. But the Twins would have to just implode this last week. So it looks like it's going to be Twins and the Yankees in the first wild card playoff game.
I don't see Cleveland doing anything.
Even though
I think they peaked already. I think
they
peaked too early. Those 22 games.
I definitely see them beating one of these teams in the wild card. From the wild card, they're definitely beating the Yankees or the Twins. The Yankees are a very interesting team though because of how
exciting
fast
they are.
Their offense can get on a roll with Gary Sanchez and Aaron Judge. and they've definitely been looking good, and they've started playing like a playoff team. So I don't see the Twins beating the Yankees. I do see it Yankees, Indians, and then Astros, Red Sox, and that's going to be an interesting series. As I've told y'all, I think the Astros, with the move to get Verlander and with Lance McCullers and Dallas Keuchel and that offense, and
definitely this is the year they got to show out.
Yeah, I think this is the year that the Astros, like coming after Harvey and all that stuff, they have.
This is where they were supposed to be last year.
Yes, they were supposed to build on what they did 2 seasons ago.
And you don't get Verlander just to exit the playoffs.
Sports Illustrated did a cover 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. The cover said your 2017 World Series champions, the Houston Astros.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
They did do that, though. Yeah, I remember that.
But I think that's with they had Carlos Correa coming up, George Springer, Dallas Keuchel, Altuve, and they did what the Cubs have done.
Build up that farm system.
Yeah, trade all your veterans for prospects, because the teams that you're trading these veterans to are trying to win a World Series. You know you're not. And the Twins, I believe, did the same thing. The White Sox just did it. So the White Sox in 3 or 4 years, you could see making a run in the AL.
Yankees finally did it this year.
Yeah.
They actually didn't sign no.
But the Yankees actually ended up I don't know if the Yankees knew how good they were going to be this year. But then when they were this good, they ended up being this good. They realized, oh shit, we need to go and get people. I mean, they signed Aroldis Chapman back after they loaned him to the Cubs. But that was really their only big free agent signing. And Mark Teixeira retired, so it was kind of a completely different look.
They're going away from their usual MO, which is sign the big names, get the big stars to New York.
But then they traded for David Robertson and Todd Frazier from the White Sox, and they ended up like, oh, we're good. Let's trade up some of our prospects. And so they traded their prospects away, and they traded for Sonny Gray from the A's, and they decided to push all the chips forward for this year and get some of the veterans, some good players. So they have a unique team, and I could see them making a nice little run, because
I think they're a poor man's Astros. They got a good balance of veterans and young talent on that team.
Yeah, but I just see the Astros taking the AL, and I mean that's there's a little bit of a homer and a Texan feeling in me, like that I'm rooting for the Astros more than this is but
I'm not. I got a different Texas team that needs to win a World Series first.
That is true.
Y'all had your chances.
Like I kind of want to see a World Series rematch. I kind of want to see an Indians-Cubs rematch in the World Series, just because of how good that series was last year.
One of the most exciting, if not the exciting.
I would go with Cardinals-Rangers from 2011.
Why are you putting him through that?
But hey, man, David Freese.
David Freese just killed it.
He's, as far as the National League goes, you have the Diamondbacks, who clinched a spot. The Colorado Rockies are in the second wild card spot.
Dodgers got their spot right.
They won the division. The Cubs are magic number is 1. The Brewers and Cardinals are a game and a half and 2.5 games behind the Rockies, respectively. So this last week is going to determine the second wild card spot and who plays the Diamondbacks.
Where's the Nationals at?
They won their division, right, and they won it about 4 months ago. I actually think they won it before the season started.
Just give it to them.
They're up 21 games in their division.
It's not enough.
So it looks like we're going to see the Dodgers play the winner of the Diamondbacks in the second wild card spot. The Cubs play the Nationals.
Bryce Harper's back.
Bryce Harper is back.
Activated today, I think.
Yep.
We'll see how he integrates himself back into the swing of things. Pretty much literally how he swings the bat coming out. I think the National League is a lot more interesting as far as playoffs go, because the Nationals are a 95 win team. The Cubs are probably going to end up winning 90 plus. The Diamondbacks are 90 plus. The Dodgers won 100. And then the second wild card team is going to be at least 85.
Yep, there it is.
Looks like they got
and as we're
like
talking about it, the graphic
games.
pops up. But I think the Cubs are finally doing what they need to. Chris Bryant has had a sneaky good season. They have, I believe, 6 different players who have hit 20-plus home runs. They had Wilson Contreras just came back from injury. Same with Addison Russell. They still have Javi Baez, who is the ultimate X factor. He can play either infield position or middle infield position, allowing Zobrist to go wherever. Kyle Schwarber is healthy and swinging the bat a little better. So they have pretty much the same team they did last year, but they traded for Jose Quintana, who has pitched pretty well for the Cubs since he's come over from the White Sox. I think he's had 1 or 2 bad games, but him, Arrieta, Kyle Hendricks, John Lester, and in the back end you have Wade Davis, who blew his first save of the season the other night. So they finally, I think, figured it out, and they've gotten the mojo back for the most part. So we'll see how well they do. I've been saying since about July that the Dodgers was going to win the National League. They're set up to win it. They are definitely the best team in the National League.
So we're seeing Astros, Dodgers?
That's what I kind of am leaning towards. As much as I would like to see that rematch, like I said, I'm leaning Dodgers Astros in the World Series. And you have a team who I believe has never won a World Series in the Astros.
Astros never.
And the Dodgers haven't won since '88. So.
And I hope they never win again.
I mean, baseball playoffs and NHL playoffs, like, you have kind of a drawn out regular season. A lot of kind of average fans don't pay attention day after day. They kind of check back in like once a week, like, oh, how did my team do this week? But then the playoffs start, and it's just a completely different world. And baseball playoffs is so much fun to watch with all the energy in the crowd. There are actually fans in the stadiums. I mean, you have
unless you're Tampa Bay.
No, even when they were making the playoffs back when they had Joe Madden, they were still rocking that stadium. So, from baseball, let's slide over into a little basketball talk, because
Melo with the hoodie is free.
And I swear that they need to customize his jersey this year, where he's only playing in a hoodie. Like, every game, that's his home and away is a...
Bron hated short sleeves on his jersey. We're going to give long sleeves on Melo's jersey.
He doesn't even use long sleeves. He cuts the sleeves off. I don't know if y'all saw the picture, but when he was arriving into OKC, fans went to the airport to greet him, and they were all wearing
hoodies.
Yeah. And they all had the sleeves cut off like he wears them when
That's
he plays.
right.
And I don't. Are y'all against that? Because I'm perfectly for Melo rocking a hoodie. While
hey man, you know what? That's more space for fucking a sponsor to put their name on.
Put it on the back of the hoodie.
Big old Jordan logo on the back. There you go. Done.
If it guarantees him an MVP award, I'm all for it.
Man, you know he ain't gonna get the MVP.
Did you see when
with the hoodie on though?
He's not gonna get no MVP. It's hoodie Melo, not MVP Melo. Don't get crazy.
Hoodie Melo.
There is no
MVP caliber.
There is no MVP Melo.
There's only one ball, and once Russ figures out he doesn't get the ball back when he gives it to Melo, guess who's not getting the ball?
So you're excluding George out of this too?
Paul George is there for his defensive presence
and his 3-point shooting ability.
For his
spot up shooter now. He's the Chris Bosh of the Thunder.
Melo is definitely the Chris Bosh of the Thunder. Let's not get that mixed up because
that's a big eye roll. I mean,
he's not, what did they have him on the rankings of the top 100?
64,
something like that.
Yeah,
behind Lonzo Ball.
What is that?
Yeah,
because you know why? It was just ranking Melo. There wasn't ranking Melo with the hoodie. If it was Melo,
this was pre-Melo hoodie.
No, because he's been doing the hoodie for a few years.
Yeah,
now.
He has.
But they haven't.
The hoodie didn't become popular until this year.
Oh yeah, I mean, because it's out there more. It's on Instagram more. They know where they're playing at now. Everybody knows about the secret pickup games.
I mean, the secret pickup games have been going on since the 80s.
Yeah, but now everybody knows about them.
Most people should have. The big NBA fans knew about Bird and Magic playing in the offseason.
Yeah, they knew about that third Apollo Creed and Rocky Balboa fight too.
Yeah, exactly.
Ding, ding.
You knew that Jordan and Barkley were hanging out and like those guys were going and playing basketball together. You knew that.
It was just unspoken, and now it's just out there. You don't have
video. Like arguably one of the greatest games ever played was a USA scrimmage.
Yes.
Yeah. The Dream Team scrimmage that everybody. It's this wild imagination that you have. Magic and MJ just pretty much saying, we're going one-on-one. Yes, we have you 4 other guys, but really it's us 2.
Stay out of the way.
You just see Larry Bird in the corner just laying out, just like, I'm resting my back.
But there's nothing left to the imagination. We see it. Instagram brought us the videos.
Yeah. But I think
everyone's sharing them.
But Snapchat.
With Melo and the Thunder, I really think that they're an interesting team. They have Steven Adams, who has just become such a monster of a center, of a low post presence. They have Roberson. It is Roberson. I never remember how to pronounce that guy.
Defense specialist.
Yeah, and somebody I saw was tweeting about how it's going to work, and with Roberson, you allow Melo to play the 4, but he doesn't need to guard the 4. You can have Paul George guard the 4. You can have Roberson guard whoever, and then Melo can go on the weak forward. So if you're looking at, I think we're all in agreement that when you're building a roster now, you design it to beat the Warriors.
Yeah.
So when you're saying, okay, well, you have this starting 5, that starting 5, you're just going to immediately say, well, when they play the Warriors, how does it look? So you have Russ and Steph, who I still think that Russ is a bad matchup for Steph. We've seen it in the past.
I think Russ is the better player compared to Steph.
Overall, like whole
package.
Yeah,
he's the better player.
I think he is too. He needs to control himself at times.
Yes.
Because Steph is on a team and in a system that allows Steph to be this great shooting wizard of basketball magic, that like fire coming from his fingertips.
Oh, he's
from
more,
the logo. That's fine.
You can say he's a bit more conservative because he is. He's not as reckless as. But not so much reckless. These are just bad words to say. But
he is reckless a lot of times because the one of the reasons why I started to dislike the Warriors is because of the attitude that they play on the court. Like they're big front runners. So when they go on their runs of 15, 20 points and they just go and blow out a team, like I understand they're having fun, but Steph is throwing no-look behind-the-back passes that are going into the 15th row, and they're throwing the ball around, and they're shimmying towards the other team's bench, and they're running.
No issue with that.
They're running back down the court before the ball goes in, and they're. I see it as they're making. Like it's unsportsmanlike. I understand. Like
it's arrogant.
They're having fun. They're having fun, and I understand that.
It's not so much showmanship when the passes are going into the stands.
But there's a difference. Like the picture of
it's like running up the score without running up the score
of Dwayne Wade and LeBron, where D Wade's throwing up the alley-oop pass and he's airplaning out, and then LeBron that's one play. It doesn't happen for 4 quarters. Fun. It doesn't happen for 4 quarters. They threw an alley-oop. You're going to react to an alley-oop. I'm okay with that. But when it's every single play and it's constantly
the whole third quarter before they sit out the fourth.
I personally got no problem with the showmanship. Like I think they hype up that crowd and everything, it just goes berserk. I like the feeling of that.
Like I said, they're having fun. I understand that they're having fun.
But it's the same thing. If you're out on the courts in the street ball, not saying street ball, but you're out at a rec center and everything like that, and somebody's heating you up like that, you're going to get the trash talk, you're going to get the showmanship. It's the same thing.
Well, so the trash talk's different, I feel.
It's the same thing. You know what I mean? They're going to be showing out. LeBron does it all the time. When they was in Miami, they was doing it all the time. I just feel like because it's the Warriors, people's there's just a stigma with the Warriors. I watched them in the playoffs against the Spurs in the series that went 6 games. First game went to double overtime. I was in that building watching that double overtime game.
I was in your living room.
And that game was crazy, and I'm like, this team's going to be really good. And I was like, I started liking it.
Yeah, he was yelling at Stephen Curry through my TV set.
Your dad's just in the background
but I felt
Dale was better.
And I felt the same way about the Warriors that I did when the Thunder played the Lakers in 2010, and I think they won. They might have got swept or they went to 6 games. I don't remember the series right now. But I was like, man, this Thunder team is really good with Russ and Harden and KD and Ibaka. This is a good young squad. They're going to go somewhere. That never really happened because of some interesting GM
they did
moves.
Win somewhere. They went to the finals and lost.
But they didn't turn out like the Warriors did. They didn't, and they could have.
Billy Donovan said Carmelo Anthony's going to start at power forward.
Yeah, which is the right move.
But at this point, does it matter where he starts at? Whether it's the 3 or the 4? Because you have Paul George.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Because, I guess on paper, you'd put Paul George at the 4.
No, I'll put Melo at the 4. He's bigger than George.
Paul George is bigger.
No, I mean body mass.
Taller.
But he's also, I don't know.
It's
at this point,
it doesn't matter.
Positions, unless you're a 1 or a 5. They're
just like they do with the All-NBA teams in the All-Star game, it's guard, forward, center.
Well, LeBron does act like a point guard, too, for
yeah.
And that's what, I'll get into this in a little bit.
LeBron's a top 5 point guard all time.
He's also a top 5 small forward and power forward.
You gonna put him center, too?
No.
That's where it stops. Yeah, that's where you draw the line.
No, he's not a shooting guard.
Yeah, he's not a 2 guard. He's not a 5. Yeah,
he's not a 2 or a 5.
All right.
I mean, when your career 3-point percentage is 33, I don't think you.
So that's why you don't put him as a shooting guard,
right? Yeah, exactly. Because
when the name is shooting guard, you have to be a good shooter.
Yeah, you have to have at least 40, maybe 50% shooting all time. But LeBron straight up top 5 point guard all time.
Okay.
if he was listed as a point guard, I would arguably yes, he is a top 5 point guard. But that just throws rankings all into,
of course,
everybody's rankings are going to be just completely everywhere now. That's what happens when you're a genetic freak.
Tim
Duncan gets pushed into the center position, even though he's known as the greatest power forward of all time.
I mean, wasn't it Shaq who said that Tim Duncan isn't one of the best big men because he's not a big man? And I mean that makes sense because I don't consider him a center. He's been forced to go into it, but that's not his true position.
He was forced to go into the center position in 2009, 2010, almost 12 years into his career. For the people who listen to this podcast, we grew up with Tim Duncan in San Antonio. I don't know if you've heard of the guy, but back in 1999,
he's a swimmer, right?
He was a swimmer. He was
a sea fighter also.
He was and a professional paintball artist, paintball player. He's a man of many talents, but the 99 to 2005 Tim Duncan.
MVP Tim Duncan
is one of the top 10 players of all time. He was so good. It's just he doesn't have the numbers to back it up. When you argue with somebody who's like, "Oh, Kobe's better," he doesn't have the numbers that Kobe did, but that's because he didn't demand the ball like Kobe did, and he didn't want to take the shots. He wanted to take the right shots. He wasn't going to force up a shot over a double team.
And that defense.
In his defense, I think he made 15 straight all defensive teams.
Yep.
13 of them all first team defense. All-star games, the accolades, the 5 titles.
How many finals MVP he had?
He had 3. He should have had 4. They gave it to Tony.
But just having 3, I mean,
he should have had the 4th, the 07 one with... of course Tony Parker had good numbers. He's playing Boobie Gibson and Eric Snow. Or whoever their 2-guard was. That Cavs team was LeBron and...
whoever.
Yeah.
Wasn't Verjao on that team still, too?
Verjao was still on the team, yeah.
Zildrunas Ilgauskas. Yeah. I think Wally Zerbiak was on that team. The 07 Cavs is... probably the worst NBA Finals team of the last 20 years.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue that. I wouldn't argue that.
I was just trying to think of a name real quick, but I was like, no.
No,
all right.
No,
we'll take it.
They were bad, and the Spurs handed them a sweep.
Was it a sweep? I couldn't tell. I thought it was over after one game.
But yeah, Tim Duncan was definitely in his early career. Him and David Robinson were incredible.
The Twin Towers,
Twin Towers, they were...
All right, before you guys go off into memory lane and all that stuff, where do y'all see the West at right now?
Well,
I see the Warriors and then a bunch of...
Well, so
let's see.
I mean, we go back into the Melo trade. If Melo takes what he has done for the national team and he's done in the Olympics, and he takes what that player is and he brings it into the NBA,
and you allow him to wear a hoodie,
that's the key.
That's the key.
What
is the NBA rules on hoodies? Because I remember the NFL had to make a rule saying you're not gonna wear a hoodie under that jersey. Does the NBA have a rule, or are we about to have a Melo rule?
I don't know if they have a rule. That's good research.
That's good, yeah.
I mean, if it's a Nike hoodie, you can't really have a problem because sponsorship, and Melo signed by Jordan.
But could it have the Jordan logo on it?
Yes, it can, because the Hornets are rocking Jordan brand unis.
They are.
Well, while I look that up, with Melo, they got rid of Doug McDermott, who I think is a good quality NBA player, and they got rid of Enes Kanter. So they didn't really get rid of guys that were going to help them win a title, and they got a guy who could help them beat the Warriors.
Especially with Enes Kanter, who sat out the whole Golden State series.
Just on paper, you think OKC's like slid into number 2?
No.
Or number 3?
Not at all.
Yeah, who do you say number 2 is?
Number 2, I'd probably say Houston.
You'll still have Houston?
Yeah. It's just that's kind of where why I wanted to talk Western Conference is because I pulled up the tweet from the Ringer that I saw earlier. 27 active players have made multiple All-NBA teams. 22 of those active players play in the West. 4 in the East, and 1 is a free agent. You have 22 multiple-time All-NBA players in the West on different rosters. The Western Conference is just it's stacked. And then they go into total All-NBA appearances. Players in the Western Conference have combined for 94 All-NBA appearances. Players on the Cavs, 25. Players in the rest of the East, 18.
So is that players on the Cavs 25? That's just like
LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Derrick Rose, Kevin Love.
Derrick Rose.
Hey, don't laugh at D Rose, man.
But
is Derrick Rose gonna make the Hall of Fame?
No.
He's gonna be. How many MVPs haven't made a Hall of Fame?
Haven't made a Hall of Fame?
Have not.
But that was the thing, though. He got that MVP, then after that, just injury after injury. So it's like, he don't got the numbers to be a Hall of Famer.
You're going to have the MVP, but no Hall of Fame. Even AI made the Hall.
But that's AI. He has the numbers.
Yeah, AI would definitely a lot different than Derrick Rose. AI has a finals appearance, and he has a memorable step over of the Cavs coach.
Hey, Derrick Rose has a finals appearance. Eastern Conference Finals appearance. But there's finals in it.
It all makes sense.
But AI wasn't shelled for like 2 to 3 years without playing and then coming back being a different player. Like, D-Rose just was never the same.
D-Rose was an MVP and just never was the same. This is like a Drake album. Nothing was the same.
Drake and his ghostwriters. Always making
but,
appearance.
Like, the Thunder, they've done a lot of changes. It'll be interesting to see how the pieces mesh.
It's the Western Conference. The Western Conference is always the tough conference, and nothing changed.
Minus, 7 years in the 90s when Jordan in the East was
the East
Knicks and the Heat and
the
Pacers.
Recent time, like recent years, this is the Western Conference.
No, and
it's the tough one. When was the last time that the playoff picture for the West was same back-to-back years? It's been a while.
That's not something I've actually looked at because I did research in the past because I wrote a piece about NBA and playoffs, and there has only been one team behind that was lower than a 3 seed to win an NBA championship. There's only been one 8 seed to make an NBA Finals. So after your 4 seed, 5 through 8 really don't matter. Like, as good as those teams have had a good regular season, like as good as they were in the regular season, when it comes to the playoffs, they're not better than the top 4 teams in the regular season, and they're not better than the top 4 teams in the postseason. And it shows again and again, year in and year out, that's just how it works. You have your upsets. You have the Spurs losing to the Grizzlies,
Warriors beating the Mavericks.
Yeah, you have those kinds of upsets. But then they go into the next round and they get beat. So, whether or not the conference playoffs are the same, the top 4 are really all that matter. And right now in the Western Conference, like, the Timberwolves are going to be better. We don't know how good they can be because
they won't make that top 4.
The the only two teams in the Western Conference that could contend for a championship and didn't really make many changes are the Warriors and the Spurs, who were the two best teams in the league last season. And
that's without the Spurs having this super team.
Yeah, they
just got a super coach.
This is a super system.
Super system. But I think, I pulled up the Spurs training camp roster, and I'll just throw out Amida Brima is not going to be on the team. Matt Costello's not going to be on the team. London Parentis is not going to be on the team, and Duran Hilliard is not going to be on the team. So I'll just say that right now, those guys are not going to be on the NBA roster. They might do the two-way contracts, and they might do D-League or G-League, whatever they call it now. But we're looking at LaMarcus, Kyle Anderson, Davis Bertans, Bryn Forbes, Powell, Rudy Gay, Manu, Danny Green, Joffrey Laverne, Kawhi, Patty Mills, DeJounte Murray, Tony Parker, Brandon Paul, and Derek White. Now there are some guys there that I don't see having much of an impact going forward as far as helping us win a championship. I don't see Derek White being this guy who's going to help us win a championship this year, but we need to see the development of Kyle Anderson, because he's essentially, I think, going to slide into the power forward spot, the Boris Diaw role off the bench.
He should have his breakout year this year. He's been getting better and better these past 3 years he's been in the league.
Yeah, I mean he's had an NBA ready game since he was at UCLA. And I think that the Spurs roster is really interesting, because I was just kind of going over it with a customer at work today whose son played varsity basketball at Clark High School, so he's a big basketball fan. And if Kawhi has taken a big step each year, he's gotten better at something each year, and this last season I was saying what he needed to get better at was becoming a playmaker. He can't make the pocket pass off of the pick and roll. He's not that great of a passer. He's worked on his ball handling ability. He's worked on the ability to dribble coming around the pick and roll and getting into the paint and creating a play like that. But you're going to see him kind of pull up more than you're going to see him make the swing pass.
Dish it off.
He needs to get to the LeBron James type playmaker ability. And if he's able to step into that role, and this is just my hypothetical, because if he doesn't step into that role, I don't see the Spurs beating the Warriors this season. Kawhi has to play that role this season if they're going to be able to beat them, because you're going to be able to put out a five-man floor to go up against the Warriors at some point when they go to their roster, their lineup of death, their death lineup, where they go pretty much small with Draymond to center. You're going to be able to have LaMarcus, Rudy Gay, Kawhi, Brandon Paul, who I think could be an X factor, and then Danny Green.
I really see the X factor being Rudy Gay, seeing how he comes back off that injury.
If he's fully healthy, then. But Brandon Paul isn't somebody that people just regularly know what he can do, but he's super athletic and he is a 3-point specialist. He can shoot the 3-ball, and he's 6'4". He's listed at 6'4". So you'd have him guarding Klay Thompson, Danny on Steph, Kawhi on KD, LaMarcus on Draymond, and Rudy Gay would run around with Iggy. And I think that's a good 5-man floor to play that, but the only way that works is if Kawhi is able to be the point guard, or Brandon Paul is able to help with the ball handling abilities. Because Rudy Gay is a decent ball handler, but he's not somebody I would want to be starting the play, starting the motion. So there are some interesting aspects to the Spurs roster this season. I really thought Davis Bertans was our X factor last year. I don't think he really got the type of run he should have. I was kind of upset with how Pop played the rosters in the playoffs. I thought Dedmon should have played more. I thought Bertans should have played more. He stuck with Powell and David Lee.
But that's his MO. He always does that.
Yeah. And every time it happens to be a season where, you're probably not going to win the series once Kawhi goes down. And you probably weren't going to win it with Kawhi. Why not down 2-0? Like, shake something up and just play more young players and play more athletic players. So, Bertans, how he develops, he looked really good in Summer League. Bryn Forbes looked amazing in Summer League. LaMarcus came out on media day saying that he was frustrated with his position, like in his role with the Spurs last season, and since he's been there. So, I think with the voicing of that frustration,
he's out.
Not that he's out. Like I think he understands better now than he did previously. So.
But do you think that comes down to they just didn't tell him when we were trying to sign him what we needed?
So here's what I see, and I feel like this is me saying it, so I feel like myself feels like it's a well thought out perspective. LaMarcus Aldridge was signed by the Spurs because he was a top 2 free agent that season. We needed to kind of start shifting from Tim Duncan, and we knew Kawhi was good. We knew that, but LaMarcus was going to be the guy. He was going to be our best player when we signed him. And so Pop was able to go to him, and RC was able to go to him and was like, we are going to be the focal point. Like, we want to bring you in, and you are going to play this key role in our offense, in our team. He signs the contract. And I think once he signed the contract, they upgraded Kawhi's system. Because Kawhi, these last 2 seasons, has just taken his game to a completely new level, so that I think we signed LaMarcus not realizing that Kawhi was ever going to be this kind of player. When we signed LaMarcus, Kawhi was probably outside of the top 20 players in the NBA. He had an NBA top 5. He has an NBA Finals, and he's probably the top 3. He's probably the second or third best player in the league right now.
I don't know if Drew remembers this, but I told him that year when you guys beat Miami for the title, and I saw how he went at LeBron James and was guarding LeBron James, I was telling him he's your guys' future.
Oh, everybody knew that. We told him that already.
Yeah. But we knew that, but we didn't see him. Like,
he had saying that we saw that, but I don't know why the Spurs didn't see that.
We didn't. Well, we didn't see the development of his offensive game coming. We drafted him to be. I'm saying the Spurs drafted him to be the kind of Bruce Bowen type player, and I would tell y'all all the time when we discussed the Kawhi trade, and I tell everybody, like, George Hill was my favorite Spur, and when I found out that we traded George Hill for Kawhi and ended up being Davis Bertans on top of that, but that night when I knew it was Kawhi, I celebrated. I pretty much said, you know what, George Hill, see you later. You're awesome. Love you, man. Because I watched Kawhi at San Diego State. I knew what he was and what he could be for the Spurs, and we had Tony Parker. We didn't need a point guard. We didn't need George Hill but we didn't have a small forward. In the first couple of years that we had Kawhi, we had Steven Jackson kind of as the safety net for Kawhi, allowing Kawhi to develop into this monster. So the last 2 seasons, I pulled up Kawhi's numbers. The season before we got LaMarcus, he wasn't an all-star. He averaged 16.5, 7.2 rebounds, and led the league in steals. He shot 48% from the field, 35% from three, and 80% from the free throw line. Now, the last 2 seasons, 21.2 points per game, shooting 51%, 44%, 87%. And his usage rate went up, his minutes went up, his shots per game went up. And then this last season, 25.5 a game, shooting 49%, 38%, and 88%. He took his game to the next level, and each year, every year since his rookie season, his assist numbers have gone up, and his steals per game has remained about the same. Same with his blocks. So they signed LaMarcus, not realizing that Kawhi was going to jump from 16.5 a game to 21 a game to 26 a game. So you sign LaMarcus to help with the offense, but then Kawhi becomes this kind of player, and so the ball movement isn't the same. We've kind of become a mid-range shooting team. I don't think Kawhi's not a good enough pick and roll player. So I think that also hurt LaMarcus, is that you want to run pick and rolls with your 2 best players, but every time I watched Kawhi and LaMarcus run a pick and roll together, LaMarcus didn't know whether to pop or to dive. Kawhi didn't know where and when to pass the ball, and it just kind of always seemed discombobulated. So I think now, knowing where LaMarcus fits into the team and where Kawhi fits into the league and who Kawhi is, I feel like we can see a big improvement in the efficiency in LaMarcus, because he still averaged 18 and 8. It wasn't like he had a terrible year, but he's the Kevin Love of the Spurs.
Yeah.
Like we don't need him to be the star. We needed him to be the star when Kawhi went down. We don't need him to be a star. We don't need him to go out and do what he did in the first 2 games against the Thunder, where he went back-to-back 40-plus games. We don't need that out of him. We need somebody who's going to make the right play, make the right pass, grab the rebounds, play tough defense, because the offense is going to find a way. The offense will always find a way in the Spurs system. The ball, as long as the ball moves. So I think LaMarcus can improve just because he understands, I think, now where things are with the Spurs and how it's going to work.
He gets the plan.
He also might see the dollar numbers going down and down and down because he can opt out after this year, I think.
Yep.
So he could be like, man, they were going to try to trade me, and they didn't get any offers that were good enough for me. Maybe I need to play better. maybe I should fix this role that I'm in. And if he has a good year, I think the Spurs are still. I mean, they're still the Spurs.
Do the Spurs try trading him this year?
Yes.
No.
So you see him on the playoff roster?
Yeah. I mean, unless like he's having a terrible first half of the season, he's visibly upset with his role, but I don't see that happening. I foresee him coming in, and I see him having a kind of a resurgent year, where he's very efficient from the floor, and he looks like a guy who you can throw the ball into the post and you can allow to dominate a game or 2, and then let Kawhi have a game or 2, and then go back to LaMarcus, and like just you can figure it out with him. You can always figure it out with great basketball players, and LaMarcus throughout his career has been a great basketball player. He's extending his range more and more. He's been working on shooting threes more consistently, and not afraid to pull the trigger. As long as he stops going to the same damn post move, I think he can just be better. I don't know how many times I saw him try to pump fake and spin on Draymond, and just Draymond is, yeah, thank you,
waiting for it,
fade away from 3 feet.
Yeah, I would say if I had to pick a 2 seed in the Western Conference, I would say the Spurs probably still get the 2 seed in the Western Conference. We'll see how Houston clicks, how OKC clicks.
Top 4 is easily going to be Golden State, San Antonio, Houston, and OKC. Those will be the top 4 seeds. Not necessarily in that order.
Yeah,
not in that order, but it's going to be them.
But man, the Western Conference, like Sacramento could be a playoff team. Memphis could be a playoff team. Minnesota could be a playoff team. The Lakers, I mean, if they live up to LeVar Ball's expectations, they're going to be a playoff team.
I don't even want to hear that.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Lonzo. I think he's kind of a unique point guard to have. But yeah, it's definitely Warriors, Thunder, Rockets, Spurs. Those are going to be, one of those teams is going to make it to the NBA Finals.
Does Minnesota make the jump?
I think they do. Absolutely.
I think so.
Big Cat.
Does New Orleans?
No.
They're trading Boogie, remember, to the Cavs.
Boogie's coming to San Antonio.
God, I hope not.
Crybaby, dude.
What happens with the Clippers?
I think they fall down to 7 or 8.
Utah out of the picture?
Yeah.
Definitely. Utah and Denver not making the playoffs.
Memphis.
I think Memphis still stays in the bottom half.
You think they still make it?
I think they're in the bottom half. Was Mike Conley and Marc Gasol?
Yeah, they got rid of Zach Randolph.
And I think they get Parsons back healthy this year.
Yeah, if he can stay healthy, that's a big deal for them. But like I said, 5 through 8 doesn't matter.
No, yeah, top 4 is going to be
5 through 8. You're getting a playoff bonus check. Like, congratulations!
Thanks for showing up.
You got an extra $100,000.
So yeah, top 4: Golden State, San Antonio, Houston, and OKC. Not in that order, but expect to see them there.
Yeah.
Odds are, I'm a betting man, so I would bet on the Cavs and Warriors facing each other for a 4th straight year, which is again like what they did last year. It's unprecedented to have teams face off so many years in a row, and there's a part of me that says it's bad for basketball because there's no parity, but you never know if Steph Curry could roll his ankle again.
Ankles can happen all over.
Kevin Durant has had a history of foot problems. LeBron is not going to get hurt. He's really never been hurt in his career.
His back just gives out sometimes.
Yeah, his back tightens up, and he's like, all right, well, I'll take 2 weeks off, and I'll recover, and then I'll go back. Like, if Tony comes back fully healthy, and you never know when injuries happen, or if a team just doesn't click anymore. For all we know, the Warriors, after winning the championship last year and all the shit going on with Kevin Durant and the
Under Armour comments, the fake Twitters,
and the White House beef and like everything going on outside of basketball for them. Like, who knows if they're gonna just implode in the locker room? I don't see it happening, but it could. Like,
anything can happen.
It's happened with teams before where they just imploded in the locker room and it just kind of changed the outlook of the team. But man, I always get so pumped up for this time of year. You got football season, a fourth of the way through. Baseball playoffs. The NBA is right around the corner. Hockey's about to start.
What's that?
What is that?
A bunch of Russians skating around the ice, hacking elections.
Russians and Canadians. French Canadians.
And it's a good time to be a sports fan. The September, October months. Pretty much every month until July. But I would say I think we touched on enough this week, guys. We'll wrap it up for you listeners who get tired of our voices.
Who are still listening at this point.
Yeah. We thank you for sticking around with us for the hour and a day that we talked. So signing off, as always, I'm Casey Coggins here with Alvin Hebert.
Next time.
And Andrew Lara.
See ya.
See you next week.